Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Living Spiritist Center. We would like to start by thanking you for your patience as we were resolving a little technical issue, but we are here. So I would like to greet you all and those who are on the chat. If you can hear me well, please add a little message so I know things are up and running. Today, in this beautiful morning, we will start with a nice and uplifting message from actually a little piece of Paul of Tarsus' letter to the Hebrews from our book, Our Daily Bread, from Francisco Cândido Xavier. And we will do our initial prayer, and it will follow with a lecture from our dear friend, Angie Stewart, Subtle Dangers. Hi, JC. Thanks for joining. Can you hear me okay? I see Christina, Iracema. Welcome, everyone. If you can please confirm that you can hear me well, that would be fantastic, because I want to make sure you can hear the lecture that is upcoming. The lesson is the lesson 69 with the title, Today. But encourage one another daily as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Paul, Hebrews 3:13. The suggestion regarding daily reciprocal encouragement indicated by the Apostle Paul requires a great deal of reflection so that we do not allow a little den of certain doubts to be created. Let us emphasize that Paul places singular importance to time that is called today, pointing out the necessity of valuing these resources along with our activity throughout the day. Many believe that in order to give good advice to the brothers, it is necessary to communicate constantly, thus transforming themselves into obstinate debaters. It is important to recognize, however, that a warning constituted solely of words leave a great emptiness after they are spoken. As occurs in the physical organizations, no spiritual edification will be constructed without foundation. But encourage one another represents an important appeal than simply calling the one involved to verbal debates. Invitations and advice have more effectiveness when they are accompanied by the example of each one of us. All of those who live practicing the noble principles to which they devoted themselves in the world, who carefully fulfill the assumed duties and display goodness with sincerity, are leading the brothers and sisters in humanity on the uplifting path. It is for this kind of daily testimony that the converted of Damascus invited us. Only through constant practice of inner reform will mankind free themselves from fatal deceit. Do not become hardened in the pathway that the Lord has led you to track in favor of your redemption, involvement, and sanctification. Remember the importance of time that is called today. So it's beautiful words of encouragement from Paul. And with that, we invite you all to close your eyes. Take a deep breath and elevate our minds and our hearts to God, our Creator, in gratitude for another day, for the blessing of life, and for the opportunity that we have to be here together as a spiritual family around the world, to absorb the positivity, the good energies, the lessons that can make us better from the gospel of light, from the doctrine of light, which is Spiritism. Thank you, and so be it. And with that, I would like to bring our friend Angie Stewart for today's lecture. Angela, welcome, and we wish you a blessed lecture.
Thank you, Marcos. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm so sorry for being late, but we were having technical difficulties with the PowerPoint presentation. But I hope it will work now. Let's all like cross our fingers and connect with the good spirits. So the message is, as every single message, it's always important. But this one, it's really touching because subtle danger. There are so many dangers we are exposed in our daily lives, and many of them we don't realize they are actual dangers. So the lecture of today will talk a little bit about many different ones for us to think, exactly like the picture that you were seeing here. So this picture shows the lioness totally hidden. So all the animals surrounding, they have no idea she is there, just looking, and soon she will attack. So sometimes we live like this. We have no idea that we are exposed to this type of possible dangers. And this other picture here, let me see if you can see better like this, I think. So you're gonna see my whole slides. I put lots of things popping up, but it's not gonna work. But the message will be delivered for sure. So this is a different type of danger. So you see here, the animals are looking into the water, and the one is saying, "I think it's a crocodile," and his body says, "Nah, it's a tree trunk." So this is also a subtle danger. So as we saw the first one, they could not see anything at all because the lioness was totally hidden. Also a danger, but totally hidden. In this one, they actually see something, but they cannot fully identify what is that danger. So there, as I mentioned, many different types of dangers. One's totally hidden, ones that we see and we don't recognize, and others, the worst ones, is that the ones that we already see. We already see there is a danger, but we still can't fully connect with it, and we are exposed to this danger. So here is just like a funny thing that I found. My husband and my son, they absolutely love SpongeBob. So I kind of connected the 7 capital scenes that are demonstrated here in the SpongeBob friend's behavior with 7 possible dangers. There are many other dangers, but this is just 7 that we can really connect as dangers like vanity, gossip, addictions, avarice, betrayal, laziness, and anger. So when you think about it, we all probably have a little bit in ourselves of each of those dangers, but we don't recognize. So it's important for us to recognize when we are like, oof, I'm talking about someone's life. I have to stop this. This is a danger that can start very small and then can become something very big. The same thing with addictions. Oh, just a little glass of wine today, and then another one tomorrow, and then later, and then later. And when you see you're having one every day and one bottle every day, and then when you don't even know, and you are already addicted. So with all this, the dangers can start little by little, and then they can become something big, much more difficult to control. So we have to be always watching ourselves to be able to see, ooh, what's going on. Even like a person that's always very sweet and very nice, but then when something is not exactly like that person wants, becomes like a monster, throwing all this anger out. So this is also a subtle danger for us to observe ourselves. We usually like to point fingers, observing others, but it's important for us to observe within ourselves so we can control ourselves. And then we can see this in other people, but not point fingers, but demonstrating through our behavior that it could be changed and it could be better. But today, specifically, we are going to focus on this book. We are going to focus on our daily bread, the lesson 52, that actually talks about subtle dangers, and it was by the spirit of Emmanuel. So I mentioned there are many dangers, but today this lecture will focus on what he talked. So he says, do not therefore become idolaters. This was Paul. He wrote in the first epistle to the Corinthians. So that's our focus of this lecture of today. And I will read the full epistle. It's not very long. I will read the full epistle and then I will comment little by little, digesting the message with all you guys. So let's go. Paul's recommendation to the Corinthians must be remembered and applied at any time in the world's religious ascension services. It is essential to avoid idolatry in all circumstances. Its manifestations have always represented serious dangers to the spiritual life. Ancient beliefs remain replete with outside cults and dead idols. The consoler sent into the world on the venerable spiritist mission will guard against this poisonous process of paralysis of the soul. Here and thereafter, there are rashes of adoration that must be combated. No more images of human circles, nor physical instruments supposedly sanctified for the conventional ceremonies, but friendly entities and earthly mediums that the unconsciousness of others inadvertently enthrones on the fragile altar of fanciful honors. It is necessary to recognize that there we have a subtle danger through which countless workers have slipped into the cliff of uselessness. And then continues. Inopportune image tends to pervert dedicated and inexperienced mediums, in addition to creating a certain atmosphere of incomprehension that prevents the spontaneous exteriorization of true friends of good in the spiritual realm. Let's not forget the condition of relative improvement of discarnated messengers who communicate and the picture of the immediate needs of a life of a medium of human mediators. We fight false idols that threaten Christian spiritism. Make use of each disciple's ample resources of the law of cooperation and engage in your own effort with sincere devotion to the task. And let us all remember that in the apostolate of the Divine Master, love and fidelity to God were the central theme. So this is what Paul wrote in the epistles. So here it's skipping slides, I think. So let's just talk before we dive into the message. Let's talk about idolatry. So the Webster Dictionary, he talks about the worship of immoderate devotion to something or someone, an idol. So here I put the first idol, the first picture. So our first idols are usually our parents, our mother, our father. So when we are kids, these are our idols. These are the Superman, the Superwoman, the super powerful people that we love, we adore, and we follow their guidelines. And also it could be grandparents if the parents work and the kids stay with the grandparents. So they will deeply connect with these people at a young age. But we know that when we become teenagers, and I have one, he's 15 years old, everything starts changing because their own personality start being much stronger. And many times they want to divert from whatever the parent is saying and they like to question a lot. But why? Why do you think so? Why do you think that? So then this idol that's a pure perfection starts changing because their own thoughts start modifying. And I put other three people that I personally admire. So, for example, Steve Jobs, this man, he was a revolutionary, extremely, extremely intelligent man that changed technology forever. But it does not mean he is perfect. He is just a normal man. He is a normal person, very, very intelligent, but a very normal person. And I read his biography, I read many interviews about him. I saw the movie. So, as you can see, he was not perfect. He was actually a nasty person. He was not easy to deal with. It was very hard. He was not perfect. In the same way, musicians, politicians, they are all normal people, full of ups and downs. And a very quick story. Many years ago, I was giving a lecture in Connecticut, and the person went to pick me up by the train station. And while we drove to the Spirit Center, this person was saying all kinds of problems they have, all kinds of issues, the difficulties. And this person told me, I wish you could be one of our members here because everything would be so much easier. You are so happy, everything would be perfect. And I told her, nah, 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 nah. No way. Whenever we have someone that we can even like that person, but when you go to have a daily life, a daily interaction, that's when you're going to really know that person. That's when you're going to really start seeing what are the ups and what are the downs of that person. We all have this. We all have qualities and we all have defects. We all have issues, and that's why we are here on earth. So we are going to be able to pass through our tests, our atonements, and we are going to be able to progress a little bit every day, but we are constantly progressing. So there is no one perfect on earth. Only our Master Jesus, who incarnated here to help us. So he was our symbol, our biggest example. But everybody else, we are here because we need to really improve. And here we talk about the epistles. So it's important for us to understand this. Epistles were the letters from the past. So in the past, there was no paper. They had to actually write in skin animal. And at this moment specific, Paul is in Rome and he is in jail. But Paul, being so loving as he was always, he was allowed to receive communications, to receive visitors. A lot of people were interacting with Paul in jail. So he received lots of letters from the churches he helped to open in different cities and even in different countries, full of problems, all kinds of difficulties they didn't know how to resolve. Paul got really stressed. He could not leave the jail, and he basically knew that he was not going to leave there to come back where he used to be anymore. So, through the inspiration of our Master Jesus, he was able to get the connection with Stephen. Stephen was the first apostle of Christianity. Stephen was that man, powerful speaker that was talking about Christianity. And the Paul was a powerful speaker too, but of the Mosaic law. So if you haven't read yet, please read the book Paul and Stephen. So you will understand deeply what I'm talking about. So in that time, when the Paul was defending the Mosaic law, he got super angry with Stephen and he determined Stephen to be stoned. So he died. But Stephen, already being a spirit much elevated, he dedicated his life in the spiritual realm to help Paul, that was called Saul, through his transformation of life. So this is a little summary how the epistles started and why Paul wrote so many. So here, let's continue reading the message from Emmanuel. Paul's recommendations to the Corinthians must be remembered and applied at any time in the world's religion ascension services. It is essential to avoid idolatry in all circumstances. Its manifestations have always represented serious dangers to the spiritual life. Ancient beliefs remain replete with outside cults and dead idols. So I had put pictures here before that are under here of, for example, the Egyptians. So Egyptians, they had many gods, and most of their gods were half man, half animal. So they had a god that was half man, half a crocodile, cat, and many others. And they believed in those gods and they adored those statues, those physical statues. As we know, Moses came down from the mountain where he had actually met God, connected, and he had the 10 Commandments written on stone. When he came and he met his brother and his people adoring a statue of gold. So you can see how angry he was because he finally realized that his people still had not understood the God that he was worshiping was really an enlightened being, not a statue, not a physical statue, but really a much bigger uh, being entity that was just love. And you did not need to talk to God looking and venerating a piece of a statue of gold or whatever. So we know this passage and we know that little by little, their people, his people, started understanding the message. And then we continue with the consoler. So the consoler sent in the world on the Venerable Spiritist mission will guard against the poisonous process of paralysis of the soul. So the first consoler sent really to earth was our Master Jesus. He was the one, he is the governor of our planet, and he decided to come to incarnate on earth to help us to progress, to give us examples, to connect with the 12 disciples, teaching them so they would be able to spread this teaching to our planet. And that's how it happened. But we also know that Jesus himself said that, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another comforter, another consoler, that he may remain with you forever. It may remain with us forever. So the consoler we know is Spiritism. So what is Spiritism? Spiritism was codified, was put together by Allan Kardec. So Allan Kardec did not create Spiritism. He actually collected the message of thousands of spirits talking about many different subjects. He put all together, he organized everything in these beautiful books of the Spiritist codification. And we also know the Spirit's book was the first book with questions and answers. And the gospel was actually an analysis through the Spiritist point of view of Jesus' teachings. So the Jesus moral teachings, like explained a little bit deeper for us to be able to understand. So, for example, lots of people come from a Catholic background like me, and many times I looked and I read many of the stories that Jesus used to say, and I couldn't understand, I couldn't fully understand. But then when I read the gospel and the gospel explains in details, it was like a wake up call, was like, wow, okay, now I understand what it means. And it's beautiful. If you still hadn't the opportunity to study the gospel, please join us, buy the book. You will understand how beautiful it is, how deep it is. So continue. Here and there are rashes of adoration that must be combated. No more images of human circles, nor physical instruments supposedly sanctified for conventional ceremonies. So, as you can see, there are many beliefs that are still connected with images, and you have this idea that you need to pray like in front of that image, you need to touch that image, you need to go to a place where there is an image, so you can touching that you will have some kind of grace. But we know it's not true. In spiritism, we know we don't need to connect with any type of a statue, and even with any type of a picture. Yes, we still like it, we still feel like it's good, but it's not necessary. And then when we start talking about the subtle dangers, we can talk about these three examples that I put here. So, for example, the first example of rashes of adoration is the statue of Pope Francis. Actually, if you look at the statue, the Pope is much better looking than his own statue. And the curiosity, when he heard someone had actually made a statue of him, and this statue was placed in Argentina in the church that he used to work, he did not like it. He said, please remove this statue. And he was saying more. He said, I am not perfect. I am no saint to deserve a statue while I'm still living. So he was the one, he has the full consciousness that he is still full of mistakes. He is a pope, but he is still working on his own temperament, all his character defaults, because we all have it. There is no human being here perfect, unless the super ultra tiny small percentage of elevated spirits that incarnate on earth as a mission. So these are the missionaries that come to give us the good examples, but this is really a super small percentage. Then another example, the fun clubs for singing priests. So this is something that we have to be careful to. And as this example, there are two of those priests that actually went in depression and they have to go through treatment. One of them gave actually an interview saying that he had a wake up call that made him to reflect if his life was supposed to be really the priest giving his testimony and helping the souls, or if he was to be the singing man that had actually a beautiful voice and could enlighten a lot of people with music. And this brought him through a lot of difficulties. So for him, this was a wake up call and was like, what should I do of my life? And I'm going the right pathway or not. This is something for us to reflect. The other one is the huge amount of followers of healing mediums. We know there are mediums in any type of religion, society, country. There are many mediums, thousands of them. Yes, of course, there are some much smaller that have this characteristic of healing. They have this strong energy that's actually able to heal physical bodies. But again, in spiritism, we understand we have to be healed from the inside out. And yes, you're going to like, well, but the disease is inside the physical bodies. Yes, but what caused the disease? So there are studies nowadays from doctors and medical field, no spiritists or religious people. They analyze the thousands of cases that brought the proof that the people that keep in their minds hatred, negative feelings, envy, all kinds of bad things in their minds, they have a tendency to get sick. And another thing, they have a tendency to not be fully healed. They will have surgeries and the disease will come back somehow. This was the medical field. And then we have also an example of Chico Xavier, this very famous a medium from Brazil that had a very big problem in his eye. And in that time, a very famous Brazilian healing medium told him, Chico, come here and I will be able to take care of your disease. And Chico, connecting 24/7 with the spirits, he said, no, my friend, thank you. Because at least the disease in my eye, I can kind of control. If I am cured from here, it might spread somewhere else that will be much more difficult for me to control it. So these are just examples for us to reflect, for us to think about. Continue. But friendly entities and earthly mediums that the unconsciousness of other inadvertently enthrones on the fragile altar of fanciful honors. It is necessary to recognize that there we have subtle danger through which countless workers have slipped into the cliff of uselessness. So here we see the word earthly mediums. Yes, they are mediums, but if they are on earth, they are still working on something. They have to make improvements in themselves. And yes, there are some speakers, for example, they have this powerful power of almost like hypnotizing us. This man or woman, they speak and we are like, wow, this is beautiful. This is so true. Yes, I agree with it. And it's true. It's true because they bring beautiful messages and they have a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowledge. But they are still on earth. And maybe in this life, their mission, if you can think their job, is really to talk well with their knowledge about spiritism, for example. But maybe in their previous life, they used these two characteristics, intelligence and the power of being a good speaker, in a bad way. So when they went to the spiritual realm, they felt so bad about it that they decided to come back and say, I will revert it. I will fight the bad things I did in a positive way. I will use my intelligence to connect people, to help them to fully understand the message of Jesus, for example. So they are still working on their process of evolution. They are earthly mediums. They are not perfect. And when we enthrone them thinking they are perfect, they are close to God, they are super elevated spirits, it's not true. Maybe they are much better than us. Maybe they have much more knowledge than us because spiritism is knowledge, but is also love in action. So we have to connect with our intelligence and with our morality. And only when we have these two characteristics very elevated, we will be able to be pure spirits. But then, until this process to fully arrive, many, many, many reincarnations here on the planet Earth. So, some of the difficult tests those famous speakers or mediums they go through, and when I talk about speakers, not just in spiritism, but in anything, in any field. So, when they are beautiful, famous, powerful, rich, or intelligent, we know these are already difficult tests to all of us. When a person is beautiful, it attracts a lot of attention. Everybody looks, everybody admires. And we know also in the books of André Luiz that many times he was analyzing reincarnation of a certain spirits, and he understood that those spirits asked characteristics in their physical bodies to be modified so they wouldn't be so perfect because they were afraid of falling in some kind of temptation because of a beautiful physical appearance. So this is another thing just to us to think whenever a speaker or a medium or someone has these characteristics can attract a lot of people. And as we are on earth, we are not perfect. And this can be very dangerous too. Inopportune homage tends to pervert dedicated and inexperienced mediums, in addition to creating a certain atmosphere of incomprehension that prevents the spontaneous exteriorization of a true friends of good in the spiritual realm. So the first sentence, inopportune homage, tends to pervert dedicated and inexperienced mediums. Inexperienced. So, in any field, in any type of work you have, for example, when you don't have a lot of experience, certain problems can happen to you and you will act or you will react in a different way because you don't have a lot of experience on how to deal with it. So this is a big danger for us. So what is our responsibility when we are, yay, yay, yes, he is perfect, she is perfect. And maybe this spirit is actually dealing with conflicts, maybe internal conflicts, and has to portray goodness and perfection and happy all the time when he or she is actually going through a lot of turmoil. There is a story that there were spirits trying to destroy a spirit center, and they were using all kinds of techniques. There are many, many books that talk about this that you can read, but this is one story. And these spirits trying to destroy Spirit Center didn't know what to do because they were doing anything. And the members, the directors, the coordinators of the studies, they were very connected. They were like family. So whenever someone was going down with a problem, they all connected and what's happening? Let me help you. And so they were saying it's impossible. The center, they are really connected. We can't do anything. And then one of the obsessors said, connect with the main speaker and start doing parties. The speaker was also a medium. And then they said, parties? But that's crazy. We are trying to destroy them. And you want us to influence them to have parties, to celebrate the Spirit Center? And then this spirit said, yes, because we'll be through the parties that this speaker will fall. I can see he's still connected with vanity and power. And as soon as you start exalting him, he will start falling. Because the parties will be first in the Spirit Center, then the parties will leave to the normal life, and then he will connect with other people that will divert him from the path that he's doing to the dangerous doors. So that's how we have to be careful, because the speakers, the mediums, they are normal people trying their best, but there is temptation and they can fall into the temptation, and then it will be difficult to come back. Then we have, let's not forget the condition of a relative improvement of discarnated messengers who communicate, and the picture of the immediate needs of a life of a human mediator. So human mediators, the mediums. And he talks here about the relative improvement of a discarnate messengers. So whenever we are in a mediumistic meeting, I'm sure lots of you had opportunities to participate, or you read books that talk about these obsession sessions and the work the spirits do in order to be able to help spirits and to help also the incarnated that sometimes are suffering the influence of those spirits. So whenever we die, so whenever I leave the physical body and I go to the spiritual realm, I discarnate, I'm not going to be different. I will be Angela. So I'm Angela here, full of issues, full of good qualities, but also full of issues. And I will wake up in the other side in the same way. So this is what we're talking about, relative improvement. When we go to the spiritual realm, we don't have the physical body that actually restrains us and blocks our memory from our past lives. We will be able to soon, depending on each one's evolution, to be able to have an understanding of what we did. But we also will have an understanding what we should have done and we couldn't. We couldn't complete. So will be a relative improvement. We will be a little bit better. But of course, if we spend a lot of time in the spiritual realm, dedicated to improve ourselves, we will be a little bit better. But only when we come back to earth, only when we reincarnate, we will be able to go through tests to be able to really understand if we can put in practice well what we learn. So this is for us to be careful whenever someone says, oh, we received this phenomenal message in the mediumistic meeting, and now we have to make lots of changes because was, I don't know, was St. Augustine who said that. Be careful. We don't know if the message is really from St. Augustine. So it's important to analyze the message, to read, to see if that message is really positive, is really good, or if it is coming little by little with subtle dangers, saying little by little to start changing things that were actually working well. Here you see a speaker being connected to his guardian angel, to his spirit that's enlightening him, it's inspiring him. So whenever we are good, whenever we connect with prayers through our hard work and studies, we are well connected with our guardian angel or with the mentor of the house, so we can actually deliver a good message. But as being normal human beings, there will be days we are not very well, and instead of connecting with our guardian angel, we are going to start listening to some spirits that actually don't want us to do the right thing. So that's why when we are not good, let's stop a little bit. Let's do a prayer. Let's try to connect with our guardian angel so we can actually see the light. We can actually understand how to process some kind of difficulty, and then we can continue our improvement. The final part of the message is we fight false idols that threaten Christian spiritism. Make use of each disciple's ample resources of the law of cooperation. Engage in your own effort with sincere devotion to the task, and let us all remember that in the apostolate of the Divine Master, love and fidelity to God were the central theme. So the final portion is very powerful. The first sentence, we fight false idols that threaten Christian spiritism. So we have to understand no one is perfect, but there are no evil people also. Maybe there are people that they are against certain of our ideas, but this don't make them to be evil or to be horrible. But we all have difficulties with certain people, with certain ideas. We are not going to agree 100% in anything, but that's why we live in a society, to be able to accept certain things and try to live in the best way, practicing the forgiveness that is so important. So it's not because I say it's white and someone say it's beige that we're going to fight, but we are going to compromise and we're going to say, okay, I understand you think like that. I think in a different way, but let's focus on what is good. And there is a beautiful events in Brazil that actually connect many different religions, Catholics, Spiritists, Muslims, Buddhists, many different religions, and they focus in one thing they have in common. It's God, and it's also helping others. And it's beautiful, these ecumenical meetings that we are able to see so many different religions that in certain aspects are totally against each other, but they are working together to the benefit of the population. So whenever we work together, when we forget about our differences and we focus on something that we can do together to benefit others, this is a blessing. This is a blessing. And when we bring to spiritism, whenever you see something that's not really good, instead of fighting and like, oh no, we have to throw this person away because this person is driving us crazy. No, let's try to work with love. Let's try to see why is he or she behaving like this. Let's try to talk to him or her. Maybe this person needs prayers, needs a spiritual treatment, needs some kind of guidance. We need to understand the power of cooperation. We can really cooperate and make a beautiful, beautiful future together. And I couldn't stop the this without talking about these two men here. So the picture of Jesus is actually in the front, but we have here these amazing mediums and also speaker. For example, we know that Chico Xavier, he was not a speaker, but he was a super powerful medium, and he psychographic through many different spirits, over 450 books from different media, different spirits. And we know that Divaldo Franco is also a medium who also psychographic many, many, many books from different speakers, from different spirits. But both of them are normal human beings living on earth, trying to work on themselves. They are not angels. They are not perfect human beings that we should idolize. Like he says that that's the law, because we all have our ups and downs, and this is normal. We know Chico Xavier, if you have seen his movie, you know a little bit about his life. He had to have a very difficult childhood. He suffered. He had a lot of problems. His mother died. He was very young. Then his aunt was not a very nice person. So a lot of problems that built his character. Always very loving and very very sweet. But through his whole life, we saw how many people he was able to bring console, how many people he was able to bring hope of a new life. And the same thing with Divaldo Franco. Divaldo Franco, also very humble man, in a very, very young age, single. He started adopting kids that nobody wanted, kids that everybody was like throwing them away, kids with physical deformities that were abandoned. And as soon as he met them, he's like, I will adopt him. And he actually adopted them. He put his own name as the father. And there is a very funny story that he went to the registration super excited with his first child, his first adopting child. And in that time, you could do it. Nowadays, you can't do it anymore. But he went there to register the baby. And the man was taking notes and said, okay, name of the father. And then he said, Divaldo Franco. And then name of the mother, there is none. And then the man looked at him like, what? Okay, maybe the mother doesn't know who is the father, but you have to know who is the mother. And then he was like, no, I actually don't know who is the mother. And it's super funny because he was like innocent. He didn't want to go through the whole story, I'm adopting. So he was like, what I'm going to do now? And then a spirit appeared to him and told him, Chico, put my name. Because I discarnated so many years ago, there will be no problem. My name is Alta de Souza. And then Chico told the man, oh, I remember. Her name is Alta de Souza. And then the man like, okay, you remember? So this was a funny story. And he actually adopted many other kids in the same registration place and in the same thing. And then the registered man actually asked, the same mother? And he's like, the same mother, the same father. So this is for us to see how humble this man was and how he is, but it doesn't mean Divaldo and Chico were perfect. It doesn't mean they are idols for us to put in a pedestal and say they are gods. No, but they are beautiful examples of life. Chico could be millionaire because with these 450 books sold in so many countries, in so many languages, he could be rich. But he never accepted a penny for any of it. He always donated the money to institutions, usually connected to help Spiritism. And there is a story also that he received a very, very fancy car, expensive car, and he didn't know what to do with it. And then he actually donated the car to someone that was going through very, very hard time, and they were able to raise money with the car. So this is like examples for us. Would you be able to do it, or would you fall in temptation with all this power, all these gifts that they have hundreds and thousands of people following you for a word to do something? When you see the movie of Chico, you see how disturbing was for his family because they couldn't live a normal life. There was always someone knocking to ask for something. The same thing with Divaldo. So Divaldo nowadays is 93 years old and he continued traveling all over the world to give talks. And of course, nowadays with COVID, we are all in the internet. But for him was actually good. It's very difficult. If it's difficult for us to spend so many hours in an airplane to go to another place, it's so exhausting. Imagine to a 93-year-old person. So we are just finalizing the lecture, understanding that even people we admire, they are not perfect, but they are here to improve themselves. And we all should do like this too, for example, who actually put the message of Jesus in practice, the moral teachings, always, even with whatever imperfection they had, they lived their life in the best way they could. So at this moment, we should think, am I living my life in the best way I could, or there is a space for a little bit of improvement? So this is what we have to reflect and understand. Yes, there is always a space for a little bit of improvement. Thank you, my friends. That's it for today.
Thank you so much, Angela. Great examples, great reflections to help us to be vigilant of ourselves and prevent to fall into those traps. Much appreciated. Would you be kind enough to lead us into the final prayer, Angela?
Yes, yes, sure.
Thank you.
So, my friends, you're sitting in front of a computer or your cell phone. So take this opportunity to close your eyes, to relax a little bit about these lights, and let's elevate our thoughts. Let's think about our dear Mother, Father, God, Jesus, our brother, our guardian angel who is always with us, inspiring, helping us. Oops, sorry. So at this moment, let's give thanks for the opportunity of being here together, listening to this talk, trying to fully understand the message. And most of all, please, God, help us to live today a little bit more enlightened. Please help us to understand what we have to improve, how we can be a better person. How can I be a little bit better tomorrow than what I am today? Give me the strength to overcome my own difficulties. And especially now in this time of COVID-19, there are so many uncertainties, so many difficulties, the stress that is taking over so many of us. Please help us. Give us this strength So our faith will be stronger and we will be able to see the cup half full, always being more positive. And if we have some kind of difficulty, inspire us to contact someone that will enlighten us and will bring us to see our problem in a little bit better way. Please stay with us, protect all of us, send this soothing vibration to our brothers and sisters who are sick right now in hospitals, but also to all the countries that are still going through so many difficult different problems and need this love and peace in their hearts. Thank you so much. So be it.
Thank you so much, Angela.
Thank you.
And I would also would like to wish everyone a blessed week ahead. May you and your families be well and healthy. Stay connected with us. And a final reminder, if possible, if you would like to make a contribution to the Conscious Living Spirit Center, and if you can, take a little screenshot of this QR code right here, or hit your phone in case you're watching on your computer, and you can help us with our usual expenses if possible. Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed week, and until next time.